Hey everyone, this is John Morgan. I want to welcome you to a new webinar from 2020. This one's titled, How Technology is Changing the Showroom Experience. I go around and I speak about technology a lot, and one of the questions I usually ask is, what technology currently impacts your business the most? Almost everybody comes to an agreement with the technology that really impacts your business the most is or are the smart devices that your clients are carrying. And they just don't walk into your showroom with these. They carry them with them 24 hours a day. And you already know that they impact your business because when they walk into your showroom, they've already implemented what a lot of people call, or Google actually coined, 0 point of influence. They've already gone out online and they've already researched products. They've already researched design. They've already researched inspirational ideas for their rooms when they walk in. Now, we all know that we don't fight that today. We actually encourage that. And the best thing we do in our business is that we leverage our clients' desire to use these devices more and more. And let me share a little bit with you how businesses that I work with, and these are all real examples of companies out there, how they leverage this technology in their showrooms. So if we take a moment, just talk about smart devices. How are people using smart devices in their showrooms or with their clients? Closing rooms, expanding showrooms with virtual displays, showcasing previous work, and for inspiration and research. Let's talk about these all just for a moment. I'm going to cover these just real quick, each one. We already talked a little bit about research and inspiration. Your clients are doing that whether you're standing next to them or not. So you're using your industry expertise to help them take the vast amount of information they get, be able to narrow it and focus it into what you know as an expert is really going to make their dreams come true. That's number one. That's the easy one. Let me move up to the one above that, showcasing your previous work. I've been in this business full-time since about 1990, 1991. And when I first started working with showrooms back then, I can remember walking in and I would find a photo album laying on a countertop. And you would open the photo album up and you could look inside. It would have that crinkly clear plastic that sticks to the backing, and you'd have photographs or Polaroids in there showing your previous work. And why would you do that, or why would showrooms do that? You're trying to inspire clients as to what they can have in their homes, or maybe even just trying to get them to stay in your showroom instead of going to somebody else's. Well, today when I'm working with showrooms and you walk in, I find devices like smart devices, like iPads sitting on countertops. And they actually have the photographs of your previous jobs on those. So a client can walk in, pick one up, scan through, and actually see the brilliance that you've employed for multiple clients in the past. They know they want to do business with you. I have some showrooms that actually save these with links. When you walk into the showroom, you can take your iPhone or your Samsung and you can actually take and read a QR code that they've printed on a sign or such that takes you right to your inspiration centers, so they can use their own mobile devices to walk around your showroom and maybe see virtual displays for your showroom. Maybe they're seeing your previous work, but the cool thing about that is if you're using a QR code and connecting them right to your previous jobs, when they go home, they have that connected to their mobile device too, so they can continue to dream and share once they leave. And I will tell you, probably the most popular place that I'm seeing these devices today is the closing rooms. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more detail. But you're going to see a couple of examples of how people use what I call the coffee shop showroom versus the closing room, but all the time they're using these types of devices to meet with their clients. Now, what can you share in these types of devices? Number one, you obviously can look at my screen and see that you can share your high-resolution renderings, their pictures, your previous work, and on and on. Well, some folks like to do this as well. And let me go in before I actually show you a couple of examples. Everybody who's joining me from North America, I want you to grab a pen or a pencil for a second. And I want you to write down panorama, showrooms.2020.net/Pano. Everyone who's joining me from the UK, underneath of where it says 2020 Fusion, I want you to write down 2020spaces.com/2020 products /2020 Fusion /2020 -interactive -panoramas /. I'm actually going to bring that up in a moment. Sorry to make our UK participants work more than the North American participants, especially at the end of your day today, but it is a little bit longer. So let me give everybody a chance to write this down. Now, for those of you who are a little bit ahead here, if you've already written this down, while I'm talking, you can grab your smartphone, you can grab your iPhone, your Samsung, or your iPad, and you can go into the browser and type in the one that I told you to write down. So North America, the first one, UK, the second one. Type that in, and I'm going to give you some real examples of how you can use these in just a second. Now, how are people using these devices? I'm giving you these links on purpose because I want you to experience what consumers experience when they walk into many showrooms. When they walk into a showroom, you may have already been meeting with this customer, and you're going to sit down with them and share some ideas for their kitchen. Whether you're using 2020 or Fusion, you have the ability to show things in what I call sample boards. We can show multiple images on a single page, and all of these images are savable for you to be able to email them to the client while you're sitting with them and have them bring them up on their own mobile device. Or remember I told you before that a lot of people are using the iPads in closing rooms? I have a customer about 45 miles away from me, 45 minutes away from me. When you walk into their closing room, there are 2 iPads sitting there, on one side of the table and 2 on the other side. When everybody sits down, they pick up the iPad, and guess what? They've already saved all the plans that they want to share with the client, but they're sitting on those iPads. So you can have your full renderings, your floor plans, all of your detailed elevations, your list of materials, your countertop plan, your lighting plan, and you can even have your sample boards sitting there on the iPads. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with where you set these up, I'm going to show you from 2020 today, from 2020 Design. Fusion's going to work very similarly, where we have a view where we have a floor plan. Well, what I'm showing you right now is if I right-click on the floor plan, there's an option called Show Drawing Layout. And Show Drawing Layout allows me to create pages where I can have multiple drawings on a single page. So I could bring in, let's say, a real picture of the tile that I'm going to use. I can right-click in the image and tell it to bring up the last view of the kitchen that we were just looking at. And when the kitchen appears, you'll see the perspective of the kitchen here, and then down here we'll have our selection area from our tile board. I have drawing 1, I have drawing 2, and anytime I want, I can simply go in here and say, I'd like to create a new drawing tab, and even click how many sections are available for me to place items in. They'll pop up on the screen, and I can go in and add items to them anytime that I want. Here's my new page. That's all I have to do. Now, I can go up to print and print these to PDF, and if you're coming into my showroom, I can have iPads sitting in the closing room with all of these drawings already set up so that we can all sit down and simply scan through the images, zoom in, zoom out, whatever we need to do. Now, one of my favorite things that I hear in the field is, I've noticed that people that tend to do this tend to be companies who are not going to necessarily share this information for free. They're going to take retainer fees, design deposits, and so forth, and they do not want a client to leave necessarily with this information until they have that. Well, I had one customer once tell me that he likes to use the iPad in the closing rooms because nobody ever asks to stand up and walk out with his iPad. Said if he puts paper in front of them, they do ask if they could take the paper with them, but nobody ever asks to take the iPad. So he likes to keep all of his content in that way in his closing room. A great way to leverage technology in that showroom. Now, speaking of showrooms, I get to travel a lot and get to see a lot of different showrooms, and I can tell you, some trip a year or so ago over to Spain and Portugal and so forth, here in North America, it's really interesting to see how showrooms are beginning to transition from simply centers that you walk into and see displays to really what I call the coffee shop showroom. Showrooms are often having large, comfortable sofas, chairs. They'll have big screens on the wall, tables where you can sit in comfort. There's always a great coffee machine in the showroom where we can make a coffee and sit and talk. And you're creating that comfort level that we're seeing more and more. There's one showroom I'm thinking of in particular in North Jersey right now. When you walk in the front door, right in the window on the main street, they have these big plush sofas with these large screens on the wall. So not only can the client meet with them and discuss the kitchen while they drink coffee, but the people walking down the street can look in and see the cool, comfortable, environment that's been created to help build the dream spaces for them. So we're seeing more and more of this. Now let me tell you a little bit about how technology plays into that. In a moment, I'm going to talk about dynamic renderings, using screens on the wall while using your laptop. But this is also an environment where you can leverage your and your customers' smart devices to really discuss in comfort again, I'll say that again, their new space. Now, besides the coffee shop showroom, when we're working on devices like these, another trend that I've seen is in the presentation itself, actually saving, let's say, a PDF of a rendering, and then talking about what a friend of mine always called return on enjoyment versus return on investment. And it's interesting, I've seen a lot of presentations where they'll go through and do this. Now, I'm doing this in PowerPoint right now, but I've seen multiple ways that people will present. They'll actually bring up a big, beautiful rendering like this. And by the way, this rendering is done by a friend of mine down in Northern Virginia, Anthony Johnson, who's one of our Inspiration Design Award winners here in North America. If I roll the wheel on my mouse, I want you to notice that it's going to pop up, and it'll talk about your place where your most cherished memories will be made. And they actually have little pop-ups that go around the room and talk about the various spaces and any information that they want. Now, I'm being a little bit obnoxious in my in what I've put in here, but you would want to do this a little bit more subtly, talking about the area, the workspace, what they're going to use. But I like this. I've seen a number of designers do this, especially when they're sharing on mobile devices, where a client can sit and actually read about each area on the screen. And again, we're not doing technical details. This is not an architectural drawing with technical details. This is a drawing. This is a perspective. This is a presentation that talks about their life in the room. They're not investing in this kitchen because they're going to get 110% of the value back. They're investing in this kitchen because the next 20 years of memories with their children are going to be right here. That's what they're investing in. And people are being a little bit more forward in how they share that. This is something that I do actually in PowerPoint, but again, others do it in other methods. You can just simply scroll through, talk about these areas. Now, I want to talk a little bit about closing rooms with a traditional TV on the wall. I'm sure that if I asked our audience right now how many people use a closing room with a 50-inch television or a 75-inch television, I will tell you I was in a showroom yesterday, about 3.5 hours from where I live, in a showroom where they are building 3 different conference rooms. This is not a big company. This is actually a fairly new company. They have 3 different conference rooms, and each conference room has big screen TVs on the wall, and the one in the very front has a 75-inch television screen on the wall. And what their intention is to sit with their client, be able to let their client look right here as I'm circling, right here on the television on the wall, and see their dream space. While all the while, the designer is sitting and working with the floor plan on your laptop. The customer is less interested in that line 2D drawing of a floor plan. We love that, but they are not that interested in that. They're interested in seeing their dream space here on the wall. Now, what's really cool about the softwares that both groups are using, both design and fusion is that you have the ability to work it dynamically. And let me give you an example of how that works. I want you to stop just for a moment. I want you to imagine something for me. The left-hand side of my screen is your laptop. That is what you are sitting at the countertop and using. And the right-hand side of the screen is the 75-inch television on the wall. This is what the customer sees. Now, working both in Fusion and in 2020 Design, if I were to go down here and start to do something live here, hold on just one second. Let's see if, there we go. Watch when I move this chair over here. You'll notice that the chair is actually moving in the perspective. It moved. If I go over and I click on 2020 Cloud in a moment, and I go down and I download one of the images. I like to use, books and books with glasses to create realism. I want you to watch what happens. Look on the right as I place it on the left of my plan. The book actually moves into place in front of me. Now, I have a customer who's not, who's actually really close to me physically here, probably 20 minutes away. When you meet with him in his showroom, he has you as his customer actually turn in his office. Your back is to him. You're facing this wall with this massive television, and he's working on the floor plan. And one of the cool things that he does is he lays out 99% of the kitchen. And he has a couple of areas where you have questions, or maybe he has set up a couple of questions. Do you want drawers here versus a base 18 left? Do you want a quartz countertop versus granite? He'll leave a couple of decisions there at the end for you to look at, and then he will take 20 minutes or a half an hour and actually finish the design with his customer. He does 99% of the work, leaves a couple of questions, because both design and fusion have dynamic renderings. He has the ability to move on the floor plan and be able to, and the customer can see that on the wall. And it's pretty engaging. And this gentleman who I've worked with a fair amount, I've asked him in the past, I said, well, why do you do that? Why do you put it up there? Because I understand how powerful that is to get people excited with a beautiful image. And he told me once, he said, John, that's not why I do it. I don't try to excite them with this awesome rendering. That's not what my goal is. He said, my goal is for them to sit with me, make the last couple of decisions in this kitchen. He goes, especially if I'm working with somebody who I'm trying to earn their business, because once they make those last couple of decisions and they see them magically appear on the wall, all of a sudden they feel like they designed the kitchen. They have partnered with me in the design, and I know I'm going to get their business now because I'm not trying to sell to them. They actually designed the kitchen with me. This is a project that we're doing together. We're already partners. I'm just waiting for them to sign that that first check to me to get started with this project. I think that's an awesome way to do that. If you're sitting in a room like the room I just talked about here, oops, hold on a second. Not sure why my screen is jumping around all of a sudden. So if we go back in our PowerPoint, I apologize for that. When we go back in our PowerPoint, you'll see right here with the screen, he's leveraging that to have them connect directly to him and become part of the process. And that only works. That only works in real time because your software has what's called dynamic renderings, meaning the rendering changes every time you make a change to your floor plan. So leverage that. Do that with your customer. Now, let's come to the final item that I want to talk about today when it comes to changing showrooms. This is by far the hottest and most popular thing that I see on the market. I live, for those of you that are in the UK, I live on the east coast of North America, just above Washington, D.C. Hopefully everybody in North America knows where that is, but I'm just above Washington, D.C. I've been in this business my entire career and have a really good group of 2020 dealers all around the area that I'm in. And I can tell you that within about a half hour or 40-minute drive, there's probably 8 companies now that meet with their clients using virtual reality. That's how they meet with them all the time and show the kitchens. And let me talk a little bit about some expert advice I can give you from all the various companies that I've worked with. And in the meantime, I'm telling you that I do this just in the Washington, D.C. area. I just helped a group in Boston to set up all their showrooms for virtual reality. We have a company on Long Island a couple months ago. They called me for advice on VR. There's a company out in San Francisco we worked with recently on VR. This is hot. This is really, really hot. And the reason it's hot is you cannot walk into any box store, you can't walk into any electronics store and not see these goggles sitting around. Matter of fact, if you go to Amazon.com and type in virtual reality goggles, there are hundreds, if not thousands of them listed there, and you can get them for like $20. It's very easy. You'll notice that if anybody has teenage kids out there, they're probably playing video games now using virtual reality. Well, you can utilize virtual reality in your business, and we've already seen a large number of dealers understand that what's more perfect than a marriage of technology and the business we're in than VR. Because if you think about it, what do? You design spaces that do not exist yet. Virtual reality shows people spaces that don't really exist yet. It's just the natural next step in what we do when we design. So, how are showrooms taking advantage of virtual reality today to, again, excite their customers, inspire their customers, connect their customers to them, and, of course, help sell more kitchens and baths? Here's how they do it. And I can teach you, literally teach you, to be a virtual reality expert in your showroom in 10 minutes. It's really simple. Really, really simple. First step is what I call the one-click VR. Now, in your software, if you were looking at a rendering, let's open up Anthony's kitchen again. So here's Anthony Johnson's kitchen. If you open up your rendering, within your rendering, you have a button that will take you to what's called panoramic views. At the top of the one that I'm using, I'm working in design right now, but in Fusion, you have the same button. I'm going to go up and click on Save as a Panoramic View. If I click on that little camera with a little arrow around it, it's going to bring up a screen. It's going to ask me to do two questions, basically. It's going to ask me, where do I want the camera to be? Now, you always want to be center of wherever you want to turn. It doesn't necessarily have to be center of the room, but wherever you want to be able to have your client turn and see 360 degrees. The other thing you need to do is, see where it says camera height? It says quality. Always choose high retina. There's low, medium, or high retina. Why would you ever do a 360 panorama in low resolution? I'm not sure. I always choose high. Make sure yours is set on high as well. And when you click Publish, what will happen is it will create a URL link, URL link that you can now email to your customer's cell phone, to their iPad, whatever you need to, and they can actually utilize that link. Now, let me come back out of here. Let me go back into this again. I want to show you something. I want to bring up, remember those links that I showed you in the very beginning? I said panorama.2020.net/pano. At the top here, this is what I wanted everyone in North America to type. Everyone in the UK, I wanted you to write down 2020spaces.com/2020 products/fusion 2020-interactive-panoramas / Okay? It's going to give you the same experience. Now, let me show you what happens if you click on these. If you type these into the browser on your phone, okay, either North America at the top, UK here on the bottom, if you type these into your phone, North America will see this screen, UK will see this screen, okay, very similar screens. If you type this in and you click on Browse, you'll actually be able to stand and see your new kitchen. What I mean by stand is stand up where you are right now, hold your phone up to your eyes, and then turn right, turn left, look up, look down. You'll be able to turn right, turn left, look down, look up. You'll be able to see your new environment. So if I'm your customer, I can go home from your showroom right now, stand in my 1985 kitchen, hold my cell phone horizontally in front of me, and be able to see what 2017 looks like. Now, this is not new technology. We've been doing this for 4 or 5 years. Matter of fact, I tell you the majority of the people that I work with have been doing this for at least 3 years in their showrooms. Now, what may be new to you is the fact that maybe you preset these on iPads in your closing room or such, so your client just stands up and does it right there. That may be new. But what's really new is going to be the next step, and that's what I'm going to show you next. By the way, I wanted to show, if we were looking at UK, we were looking at your virtual environments. You'll see a little more, a little different design style, but the same thing. We have the same type of environments, and you can go through and do the same exact thing as I did on the North American website here. Now, let's come back into the PowerPoint for a moment. Okay, so this is step 1. Step 2, you already know how to create that image. Remember, I said that when you were in one of your renderings, there's a button there called 360 Panorama, right? You answer 2 questions, you hit publish. That's how you get started. Now, the next step is you've created a URL link. So what do you do with that? Number 1, you save it. What save means is it'll email it to you. What I'll often do is I'll actually copy that and paste it into something, maybe a customer folder or something like that, so that I have that link from now on. Because that link doesn't go away. That link is going to stay there, and you can use it over and over and over again. Matter of fact, what a lot of really good dealers do is they encourage their customer, their client, to take that link and put it on their Facebook pages, or tweet it, or share it through some other social media access point, so that all their friends and family can stand in their kitchens and look at what your new kitchen's going to look like. Because we all know once they see you're getting a new kitchen that they're going to want one too. It's a great way to market your company just by sharing that URL link. And by the way, you don't have to do anything special. That's part of your package. That's part of 2020 Design, part of 2020 Fusion. Now, once that link is saved, the next thing you need to do is you need them to be able to look at it in a virtual reality environment. Now, if I come back over here, I'm actually live in a site over here. If I go back over to the panorama, if you look down here at the bottom, there's a little icon that looks like it's 4 boxes, 4 cubes here. If you did what I asked you to do in the very beginning, and that is write down those URL links, and you type them in the browser on your phone, when you bring the image up, right here where I'm circling is a pair of glasses, 3D glasses. I say 3D, virtual reality 3D, okay? So you can go in and see this in an immersive view, in an augmented reality, virtual reality, and what happens is when you click on that button that looks like glasses, it takes this image and it divides it into 2 images, a left image, a right image, just like your customer has a left eye and a right eye. It's a left eye, right eye experience. Now, once you have done this, once you've created, by clicking on that button, you've created a left eye, right eye experience, your customer can take their phone, slide it into virtual reality goggles, put the goggles on, and feel like they're actually standing in their room. Let me give you some advice on that. Showrooms that I've worked with, there's really 3 different ways that they show this. The first way is very simple. I call this the client casual. They're in your showroom. You can have these plastic goggles laying around on the countertop or in your closing room. Some people don't just show their kitchen. Some people already have URLs from their previous jobs. So instead of that old photo album with the sticky pages I mentioned before, your client can actually click on or type in the URL or take a picture of a QR code, have it load onto their phone. They could pick the goggles up off your countertop in your showroom, slide their phone in, snap it shut, put the goggles on, and feel like they're standing in your previous customer's kitchen. But what do you need to do to give them that experience? It's actually really simple. The easiest thing for you to do is go out and buy a pair of plastic headsets. I was in a showroom 2 weeks ago. I think in their showroom, as you walk through, there was probably 6, maybe even 7 sets of plastic goggles. And what's that investment? Well, in the U.S., that investment's about $25. Okay? In the UK, you're talking 19 pounds or 22 euros, for a pair of goggles. Where can you get those goggles? Anywhere. They sell them in box stores. They sell them, I saw them actually at my local grocery store. You can get them on Amazon.com, but let me give you a little word of advice. If you're going to buy these goggles, and what happens is, if you've never seen it, the front opens up and your phone slides in and then it shuts on it, and then you're looking at your phone through these goggles and it blocks out the rest of the environment. Here's what I recommend. A lot of people use plus-size phones. So, for instance, I have a regular Samsung phone, but there's a plus-size phone. You can go buy a regular iPhone, but my wife owns a plus-size iPhone. You want to make sure when you buy goggles that you buy goggles that fit a plus-size phone. If you just get standard ones, half the time when people try to put their phones in, they won't fit. So make sure you get the goggles that fit a plus-size phone, but still, North America, you're talking $25 for a pair of goggles. You have 4 of them in your showroom, it's a $100 investment that you can use over and over and over again. Because virtual reality is free. That's part of 2020. The goggles is what you're using to show it. Now let me show you another way people use the VR. So if I go down to what I call step 3, which is the promoting the heck out of this kitchen. Just like I mentioned, taking that URL link, telling your customer to put it on their Facebook page so all their friends and family can be jealous of their kitchen. Okay? That's awesome. What else can you do? Well, not only can you own or have the plastic goggles in your showroom, but you can get a pair of take-home virtual reality goggles. It's called Google Cardboard. And they can go home with these goggles, and you can be advertising your company on it. Where do you get those? Well, there's a company out there, and there's lots of companies that do this. There's a company that we've used at 2020 often. We have no relationship whatsoever. We buy them from them just like everybody else does. There's a company called Dodo Case, DODOCASE, dodocase.com. You can actually go and buy these cardboard boxes. They're flat. You actually unfold them and they snap together. Your cell phone slides in right here where you see Stanford Health, right behind there. And you can buy these goggles and have them branded for your company. So if your kitchen and bath company is called Greatest Kitchen and Baths of the World, you can have your Greatest Kitchen and Baths of the World logo all over this thing. You can send this home, just like you would send them home with a pen with your name on it. You can send them home with this. They already have their phone with the link to the virtual reality, and then encourage them to go around and show everybody they know, friends and family, their new kitchen in a virtual reality environment, and it has your contact information all over it. Now, this costs U.S. about $12.50 if you buy these in bulk. I mean, when you're buying hundreds of these, $12.50, you're talking about 11 euros or so forth for a cost of this. So, it is a couple bucks per client, but heck, that's a great way to advertise your company. Many companies actually have plastic goggles in the showroom, and they have send-home goggles as well. Now, the last item on our list is a real professional system. I'll tell you, I have a really good customer down in Washington, D.C. They're actually a design build firm that works on high-end homes. Their kitchen and bath department has a closing room where they have a big screen on the wall, just like we talked about with dynamic renderings. They also have 2 sets of Oculus glasses. For those of you that do not know about Oculus Rift, Oculus is owned by a little company named Facebook. Oculus is a virtual reality environment that you see in most of the tech stores or television appliance stores and so forth. This set of glasses is a little bit different. It does not utilize your customer's phone. What it does is it has a cable that connects to the port on your computer. When it connects to the port on your computer, your client is actually looking at a virtual reality image that's being driven by your computer. When you put those goggles on, it is extremely realistic. And I will tell you, as just a word of advice, if you have these in your closing room, I would have your client kind of put their hand on the counter, on the table to begin with, so they balance themselves, because when you put the goggles on, the floor is so realistic you feel like you have to move your feet because you want to make sure that you're standing steady. And then you can turn right, you can turn left, you can look up and down. It blocks out the real world environment around them, and they're completely immersed in the new space that you're providing to their home. It is absolutely an incredible experience, and it's still relatively inexpensive. That television that you put on the wall was probably $600 or $800. A pair of Oculus glasses are $600 or less. You can give an incredible presentation to somebody for under $600. And that's a one-time investment if you buy Oculus. Then again, 2020, we're not selling these things. We're just telling you how people are using the output from Fusion and Design to be able to help wow their clients, be able to sell more product, to be able to create better, more realistic expectations of the space that your client's going to be living in. It's that inexpensive to do. Now, usually at this point, I get a quick question, well, don't you need a supercomputer? Does it need to be one of those water-cooled computers in a separate room? Do we need a NASA scientist to work with us on it? Absolutely not. Let me show you the specs for this. When you see the specs for an Oculus Rift, it's going to ask you for a graphics card, an NVIDIA 1060 or greater. It's going to ask you for a CPU that's an Intel i5 processor or better. It's going to ask you for memory of 8 gig or better. And if you don't recognize these recommendations, you should, because these are the same types of recommendations that we gave you when you bought your software for your computer to run your design software. So the computer you're currently running right now, if you're doing 360 panoramas and you're creating VR images and so forth, your computer has the capability to run the Oculus Rift glasses. So you don't need to go buy a supercomputer. It'll run on your current design computer already. So I'll tell you what, we've had a really good session of sharing some pretty good information from other showrooms and so forth. I'll tell you, we have lots of other great ideas, not just about 2020 design and fusion, but really about engaging customers, selling more product. We do some of these on trends and so forth. But we just don't do these, once every couple of weeks, once every couple of months in free webinars. If you haven't done it already, we have a community space where people share great ideas. So if you haven't joined the community yet, it's www.2020spaces.com/community. Thank you and have a great rest of the day.